Good day, everyone. Today we continue with part C of this series called Creation versus Evolution. It is about lies in the textbooks, and today we talk about the geologic column as dating method for the Earth. Please subscribe, like, and share these videos as much as possible. In the last Creation versus Evolution video, we talked about Peter prophesying that in the last days there would be scoffers. One of these are a guy who lived in the 1700s named James Hutton. In his book Theory of the Earth, James said the Earth is much older than most people thought. You have to remember that in James Hutton's lifetime, most people believed in the Bible and that the Earth was around 6,000 years old. This was also a time of many revolutions. There was the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Spanish, the Polish, the German. Everyone was getting rid of the king and establishing democracies. Whether that is good or bad is another subject. But the fact is that 1 Peter 2 verse 17 says, "Honor the king." And some people thought that the Bible was an obstacle to their political objectives, and they wanted to discredit the Bible. So back when everyone thought that the Earth was a few thousand years old, James Hutton came along and said it's millions of years old. He was one of the first guys in the Western world to come across this idea and called it uniformitarianism. The present is the key to the past. In other words, the way things are happening now is how they have always been happening. Just like Peter prophesied that these guys would come, right? The book that James Hutton wrote had a very big influence on a young lawyer from Scotland, Charles Lyell. Charles Lyell, the lawyer, hated the Bible. In 1830, he wrote Principles of Geology. On almost all of the pages in this book, his hatred for the Bible is clearly discernible. He keeps referring to it as ancient doctrines. You know, because you are outdated if you believe in the Bible. He did not like it that mankind mixed their science and religion and said, Vallisneri remarked how much the interests of religion as well as those of sound philosophy had suffered by perpetually mixing up the sacred writings with questions in physical science. He shows total disregard for God's judgment where the flood is concerned, and he reasoned philosophically against those who regarded the disordered state of Earth's crust as exhibiting signs of the wrath of God for the sins of man. He talks about those people who have religious prejudice because they believe in the Bible. He said men of superior talent, like himself, who thought for themselves and were not blinded by authority, like the Bible. You can get this book and go through it yourself. He really hated the Bible. He also said he wants to free science from Moses. What do you think he meant by that? Well, people that read and believe what Moses wrote believe that the whole earth was rearranged by Noah's flood, and he does not want that. Charles Lyell, with the help of a couple of other people, developed the idea that each layer of the earth is a different age. He invented what we call today the geologic column. He divided the earth up into layers and gave each one a name, age, and an index fossil. The movie Jurassic Park got its name from one of these layers called the Jurassic Era. Now, this was done in 1830, long before there were such things as carbon dating, potassium-argon dating, rubidium-strontium dating, lead-208, lead-206, uranium-235, uranium-238. None of these existed. The geologic column was created based on the assumption that the layers have different ages. The whole thing was made up out of the clear blue sky. Now, it is a fact that the Earth has many layers of rock. There are two interpretations of how they got there. The evolutionist will say that the layers formed slowly over millions of years and that each one is a different age. The Bible-believing Christian or creationist will say that these layers all formed in the worldwide flood in the time of Noah. But the guys who believe in evolution are always trying to erase the line between their interpretation and the facts column. See, the geologic column is like the Bible for the evolutionist. The only place in the world where you will find the geologic column are in the textbooks. It does not exist. This guy admits it. He says, if there were a column of sediments, unfortunately no such column exists. Scientists claim that there are over 26 places in the world where the geologic column does exist. This is another assumption. There might be 26 places in the world where the fossils are in the order that they want them to be, but this does not prove that the geologic column exists. If there was a place it existed, it would have to be over 160 kilometers thick. And the obvious question would be, where is all this dirt coming from? Look, there's no question that the earth has layers. But if the layers are different ages, why are there no erosion marks between the layers? I mean, don't you think that if that layer sat there and waited for the next one to come along, that it would rain on it at some point in 10 million years? Go outside, get some dirt into a jar and fill it up with water. Shake it up well and let it settle. It will form sedimentary layers in no time. It's called hydrologic sorting. Don't let scientists tell you that they do not use the geologic column anymore. They have no other way of dating things where the date fits their model. So according to their model, the layers are dated by the fossils found in them. And the fossils are dated by the layer in which it is found. This is called circular reasoning. Let me show you. This textbook says on one page that the rocks are dated by the fossils. And on the very next page it says that the fossils are dated by the rocks. This guy says, the intelligent layman has long suspected circular reasoning in the use of rocks to date fossils and fossils to date rocks. The geologist has never bothered to think of a good reply, feeling the explanations are not worth the trouble as long as the work brings results. This guy says, apart from very modern examples, which are really archaeology, I can think of no case of radioactive decay being used to date fossils. If they tell you that they use carbon dating or uranium dating or whatever, they are wrong. Fossils are dated by which strata they come from, and the strata are dated by which fossils they contain. Circular reasoning. Radiometric dating would not even be feasible if the geologic column had not been erected first. Really? This guy says, the rocks do date the fossils, but the fossils date the rocks more accurately. I think that he might be a couple of fries short of a Happy Meal. And this is how they teach their fellow evolutionists to answer to the charge of circular reasoning. They say, the charge of circular reasoning in stratigraphy can be handled in several ways. It can be ignored as not the proper concern of the public, in other words, their way of saying that you have no right to question them. It can be denied by calling down the law of evolution. It can be admitted as a common practice, or it can be avoided by pragmatic reasoning. The fact is that it is all still circular reasoning and zero science. Just like Peter prophesied. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. Unfortunately, this is all we have time for today. Please like, subscribe, and share as much as possible to help my channel grow. Don't forget to leave a donation. Instructions on how to do so will follow. Thanks again, and God bless. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos, please leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified of our next video. You can help us create better videos by leaving a donation on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you. We hope to see you next time.